Yeah, was released a few days ago. Okay, YouTube, we're live. YouTube, good evening, good evening, good evening to you all on Instagram and YouTube.
Hello.
Yeah,
Hi.
always a pleasure to join you guys on the Blue Sofa. And yeah, it's good to be with you all again. So today we're starting a new series. We thought, okay, hold on a minute, let's just do something different. So we'll let you into it in a little while. But does anybody know? I think we've already let it out anyway.
Yeah.
The meaning of
So for those that got the message, so do you know, you probably know what cuffing season is now, but did you know what cuffing season was before you got the message? I admit I didn't know.
No,
I hadn't heard that phrase before.
Yeah, neither.
But our researcher
Yeah.
informed us, educated us. So you learn something new every day.
Yeah. Does anybody know? Even Lisa did not know. Right. Okay. But I expect that. I think the problem, Lisa, is that you've been married for too long. Aha. See. Toby knows.
But you know, I think the you probably know of the actual situation, but not necessarily that it has a name.
Yeah. Anyway, so today we are launching a new series that we've called or themed Coffin Season, pretty much. And the general idea is that, or prior to even getting the name for it, the idea behind this series is just to actually have conversations with married couples, and we thought we'll probably just call it something like "Marriage is a Beautiful Thing," and then interview couples, different couples in course of the month. So as we're sharing with our researcher, and he then came up with the idea that there's a theme called coffin season. So initially I thought, what do you mean coffin? Is it like like when you're coughing?
In COVID season.
Yeah, but then obviously it meant something else. So what does it mean? What does coffin season mean?
So it's a season. I think that was it. The Urban Dictionary that we looked up, or it's a dictionary entry. Season where single people essentially link up into a kind of a short-term relationship in order to keep warm during the winter months of the year.
Yeah. And so we thought, well, let's also use this season to educate ourselves in a much light-hearted way. Share experiences with married couples, the good, the bad, the funny, and the not so funny. So we have a few exciting lineups in terms of couples to run through this month. But we thought to ourselves that, well, usually on this blue sofa, and perhaps maybe I should mention that the general idea behind the blue sofa again is that we just imagine, if you imagine coming to our home to visit us, and we are seated on this blue sofa and we're just having conversations, heart-to-heart conversations. There are things that I would say in my living room that I won't say out on the street or
on social media.
Well, yeah. So this is actually giving people like a sneak preview into our lives, and also just having conversations with other people as well. So on today's blue sofa, it's going to be different because even though we're the ones sitting on the blue sofa, we're going to be interviewed by a couple. So we are the first couple to be interviewed in this series that we're going to do. So we are kind of launching it off ourselves. So we hope that it's going to be fun. It's going to be exciting, and we thought, okay, who would be the ideal couple to interview us in a way that we can all just thoroughly enjoy ourselves, not holding back, just really having a great time. So we thought we'd invite our friends and pastor colleagues actually, Pastor Uche and Vona V2 to have the interview. So it's really just going to be no it's past sort of thing. We're just going to flow generally, and you can also have some questions for us. So I'm going to invite Pastor Uche to join the conversation. This is actually the first time. It would have been nice actually for them to have also have been interviewing them. You know, yeah. So hello.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm good, man. We are good.
You're still wearing my shirt.
Yeah, so I'm getting style tips from you.
Right, Bona, good to see you. Yeah, so we are used to taking control on this side, but we yield control to you guys today to just sort of steer the conversation. Hey, Wumi, and who else? Michelle, yeah.
Hi.
I just joined in. Right, so over to you now. At
Awesome
your mercy.
Stuff, first and foremost, thank you for having us. We're very excited to be here, and we want to just find out more about you. But you know, I think that everybody always asks that question: how did you meet? You know, I think it's a good question to start with, but we want to enhance that question with: this is not about God or how did you know that either of you were one for each other. But you've met many women, you've met many men. What happened for you to think, I have to go deeper here?
Yeah.
Was it just immediate or attraction, or what exactly did you see? So how did you meet and answer that question?
Okay. Well, I'll go first, but I think I might as well just mention quickly that Pastor Uche is interviewing me tomorrow on his show. So for those that might not be aware, you know, let me just plug that in now. He has is it a weekly show? Is it monthly?
Weekly.
It's weekly. So I'm truly honored to be on that show tomorrow. So please, for those that are online now, you can join us tomorrow. It's in my, what's it called again now? My Instagram. What's that thing?
Your portrait.
Your story.
No.
It's always on my story. Yeah.
Okay.
So please, join us tomorrow at 8:00. So now to answer that question, you see, the thing is, for me.
Should I first say how we met, maybe?
Okay.
And then you go back from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Go for it.
So I was in church. You know, I was an usher. You know, I was just going about my business, serving God. You know.
Yeah.
And I was so I was in the ushering department. I used to go for all the singles program and everything. So I was just serving God, you know. And then this guy came and approached me, and he was a minister in the church, you know. And he just, because he's a minister, so I was just thinking, it's just he's just being friendly, you know.
Yeah.
So from there we kind of started chatting. So actually, so in the ushering department, his sister actually was in the ushering department, serving with me in the ushering department as well. And she said that she wanted me to meet her brother. And I didn't know who her brother was anyway, but I was thinking, why are these people trying to set me up? You know, I just want to serve God, you know? So I was just minding my own business, you know? So anyway, so we started chatting. So we spoke, we started chatting and everything. He started becoming friendly, but I'm like, he's a minister in church. So obviously, you know, I'm just a member, a worker in the church. So I have to be friendly, you know, kind of thing. So and so kind of from there, we started talking, and then he made his intentions known. And then we started dating there. So basically, the minister chopped his sheep. Yeah.
Yeah. No, but. But listen, Okay.
When you say he made his intentions, how? What did he say?
What did he say?
She was smitten. She can't remember.
We were talking. So initially I didn't know, kind of thing, because we were talking, because I'm friendly like that, you know, kind of thing. So I'm friendly. So I know that sometimes people might take my friendliness for something else anyway. But we spoke a lot, kind of thing. He was asking the questions, you know, the questions, and you're thinking, okay, is there something more than this or not, kind of thing. And then likewise, I was starting to get feelings. I'm like, but he's a minister. Do you know what I mean? When anyone will come and they'll say, oh, you know, Minister Banks or whatever, I'll be like, but he's a minister. Do you know what I mean? Like, don't even think about that. So he must have just said, made his intention, just said it. But I don't remember the exact words, how he said it. So I don't know if you want to go back, perhaps.
Okay. Well, I'll just try and fill in. I'll try and fill in the gaps. I think for the record, at the time though, at the time, you were in the ocean, and Femi Adesanya was leading the So she wasn't technically my sheep. But I don't.
Isn't everyone in the church sheep?
but on this one, I don't mind chopping the sheep. So that's fine. But one thing that I just remember very clearly, I mean, one of our ministers at the time, when he noticed that you know, we're getting closer and building on the relationship, he said something to me that holds very true today. He said, Banks, you are eventually, actually, when we got married, he said, Banks, you married up. I don't know whether you know what that means. Essentially, what it means is that I took my eye to the market, and I actually scaled like 2 levels above myself. You know,
that's the thing.
So I think my wife is actually a reflection of how big my vision is. You know, wow. I have a very, 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 very big vision. When I met her, I had empty pocket but a big vision. You know, so but to fill in the gaps, I think it was more, and the attraction actually wasn't. To be honest, the attraction wasn't spiritual in the first instance, right? So it wasn't.
Mr. Banks.
You know, so I saw, I liked, and then we started to walk through the other details of it. You get what I mean? You know, so yeah, of course, that's what we're doing here. You know, so in fact, this session now, I don't know that I want to put it on Instagram. Instagram TV. Yeah, you know, but of course, you know, and at that time, I just recovered from a season of, in a sense, disappointment, because I felt that because there was somebody else that I thought I was going to marry for like 7 years. I was just, you know, waiting on this person. We're friends, but it wasn't going to happen. It just wasn't happening. You know, I will go and come back, and you know, I will receive you know, nails, as we call it. And I will go back and pray again, and I'll come back, you know, but it just wasn't happening. So I was disappointed. I was frustrated. I was like, God, you know, this is not the plan now. I had every intention to get married at the age of 25. I don't know where that came from, but that was the plan. That was the plan that I had with God, right? And this is now like 6-7 years into that. You know, this man, you know, man's not hot. This guy is not getting any younger. You know, I had to. So anyway, so Pastor La, myself, and Pastor Bill, we thought and prayed about it, and said, you know what, if this is not happening, you know, just leave it. So I was quite you know, beaten down, disappointed, but I left her for a season. And then of course she came into the church, and as soon as I set my eyes on her, I just, you know what, this person, you know, once I spoke to her, I knew that this person was my wife, you know. But of course, then I had to then go back and pray about it and all that, you know. But one of the few things that, I mean, apart from of course the physical attraction, it was also the fact that you know, at the time, I can't remember who said it, but someone was talking about Fumi and said she's a scientist, you know, And so from where I come from, when someone is a scientist, you think this person, well, not that you think, you know that this person is brilliant. You know, nobody introduces themselves as a scientist. You know, and the scientists that I know, they are, you know, with thick glasses, you know, very, very studious, looking very, you know, scruffy, unkempt, and all that. So I thought, well, that's interesting. Let me find out about this scientist, you know. And that's how we got talking. And as soon as we got talking, I knew that this is the woman that I want to spend the rest of my life with.
Oh, I like the way we just blushing.
So there's the question about, so you knew. How did you know you're right for each other? How did you know you're right for each other?
Okay, so I think for me, and at this point, by the way, I was already, like I said, I was already in my early 30s. At this point, I'd read all the books I could find about marriage and relationships. I was counseling married couple, right? Wow. So I'd gone past well, to be honest, I won't say I'd gone past, but I had a lot of knowledge. I had a lot of information, and I had a lot of guidance. You know, I mean, my pastors were involved all the way, you know, so it wasn't too difficult for me because when you know, you're able to quickly make decisions and filter out a lot of the other things that people are struggling with. I didn't have to struggle with all of that, you know, because the decision wasn't, even though the attraction was there in the physical, but the decision wasn't in the physical. You know, I managed to, you know, strip all of that away and make the decision on the basis of what really mattered to me.
So, you know, like for me, so I came into Pastor Shola's ministry, and before that I had no teaching on like how you should conduct relationships as a Christian. Yeah, all I knew was fornication is wrong. That's all I knew, kind of thing. But there's so much more, you know. So when I came into church, I went to every single meeting. I was there. The socials, I was there. And it wasn't that I was looking for someone. It was more, I'm just getting knowledge. I hadn't heard anything like this before. Even what attracted me to the church initially was, I saw this series, The Secret of Sex and Seduction. I was like, in church, they're talking about this. So that's how I came into his Pastor Shola's ministry in the first place. So kind of I was learning how to do things in a godly honoring way. So there was a guy that was interested in me before and in church, and like so Pastor Shola said we should pray, isn't it? So I was praying and I didn't hear anything. So I said to the guy, I can't do anything because I'm not hearing, like God hasn't spoken to me. If you want to wait around, you can wait around, but you know, this is the situation. And so that was my prayer, you know, like, so if a guy came around, you know, I would always pray, Lord, make my heart neutral so that I can hear you clearly. Speak to me, reveal yourself to me, kind of thing. Let me know. So that was my prayer through it all. And so I even, so on his encouragement, I went on a retreat. I prayed on a retreat. I didn't hear a word, you know, kind of thing. But as we were kind of going along in the relationship, I felt peace that things were aligning and that this was someone that I could follow. So like, for me, I wanted someone that can lead, that I could listen to, support, encourage. I guess someone that I could submit to, and I felt that I could with him. And initially, because he was a minister, that was like, who wants to marry a minister? Like, who wants to marry a pastor? You know, I don't understand why people want to marry pastors, and you know, kind of thing. So that was something that I guess God worked on me with, you know, kind of thing, because you know, like, I mean, how beneficial it is for your husband to have a relationship with God, you know, that is strong or is growing, kind of thing. So so for me, yeah, it was just spending time, being willing to listen and to hear whether it's a yes or a no, and the experiences I've had in the past, in the people, people that were interested in me in the past.
Yeah. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to find out what happened to the guy that was hanging around, but that's the story for another day.
The guy is doing counseling.
Oh man, yeah. Okay.
I really like that prayer, though. The prayer that you ask God to make your heart neutral so you can truly hear. That's a really good prayer, because I've heard people pray, "Oh God, if it's not for me, take it away." But I think asking for your heart to be neutral is
yeah, I mean, I think, all of the prayers, all of the above, but the neutrality is, like, let me hear. If you're saying yes, let me hear. If you're saying no, let me hear, because it's not that easy to hear no, so.
Considering the guy in the picture, you know what I mean? It's difficult to say no when the guy is correct.
I actually remember when we came to church then, and I remember thinking, "Ooh, this girl is definitely fake." So when I saw that Pastor Banks had gotten in there, I was like, "Pastor Banks is sharp."
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, you mentioned the fact that when he came to speak to you, you were talking about his Mr. Banks, Mr. Banks, you are calling then. How did you get comfortable with the fact that he was a minister and somebody who obviously eventually became a pastor?
So
how do you deal now being married to a pastor?
Yeah, so it's quite interesting actually. So at the time, I think it kind of grew on me in the sense that, like, it's not really about labels, titles, kind of thing. It's about the person, and you find that at work as well. It's not necessarily the label or the job title or whatever. It's as you get to know the person, it's about that kind of interaction with the person. So and I think it was easier for me in the sense that he was already a minister by the time I'd met him. And because he's accountable to Pastor Bimbo, Pastor Shola, so he said that I need to go and speak to Pastor Bims. I remember I'd been in the church for 2 years or something like that. I'd never had one-on-one conversation with the pastors. And I was like, hi, Pastor Bimbo. Yeah, I'm here.
Like this guy.
Well, she knew I was there, innit? So she basically, kind of helped, she basically said, where this is leading, that he's likely to be a pastor or whatever. And I said, yeah. So I was fully aware that that was where he was going, and getting to know him, I could see what excited him, what was on his heart, kind of thing. So you kind of grow to love, well, I grew to love him, I guess, in that way. And I think now, I guess it's understanding that our lives are not our own in a sense, we serve the ministry. I'm involved in the ministry as well, but, there are times that he will have to go out in the evening. There'll be times that he'll have to do a wedding or a celebration, a naming ceremony, etc. It means I'm at home, I'm with the kids or whatever kind of thing. But there's that flexibility. So which means that whilst I still work, I work full time, he does the school run. So there's that flexibility in that he can do the pickup, drop offs for school, even though that means that, an evening he may not be available because he has to do some kind of ministry work or other,
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that, because there's this, you've kind of described changing seasons in your relationship, right? So how would you say your relationship has kind of changed over the years? So at the point where it was, just two of you were even just planning the wedding, to the point where kids and, then Pastor Shalatin is leaving the church and Pastor Banks is like, okay, what's going to happen now? So how do you manage to, how has it changed over the years? This is the question. We'll get there.
Do you want to go first?
I think, to be honest, or personally though, I've not really felt those changes as much, right? And it's interesting because I don't think we've ever spoken about it in this way. because I'm rugged, dogged, and I'm very easy to, I can adapt very easily to things, So I guess the main seasons in our lives that was quite difficult for me to adjust to was when we had our children, particularly Bethel, because I have a rhythm to my life, in terms of my timing. So I go to bed at a certain time, and I wake up at a certain time. But once that is, affected in any way, it messes up the day following, So that was a season that I struggled with greatly. In fact, it took me over 2 years actually to recover, back my normal routine, as it were, So, but otherwise, sorry.
Sorry, why? Well, how come it didn't happen with Daniel?
I think you should. Okay, good question actually. Now, I said to people that having one child, right, is one thing. Having a second child is not just two children. It's like it's the implication, the impact is more than double. So it compounded. Because now we're not only dealing with a baby, we're dealing with with Daniel, and Fumi obviously wasn't able to do more because Bethel as a little baby, she had to focus on that. So I had to more or less focus on Daniel. So it was just not as settling for me, But eventually, we managed to get there. But for us, what helps us is the fact that we work together well. Oh, I think anyway that we work together well,
Yeah.
So it'll be good to hear what she
so it's quite a challenge. So we had, we did premarital counseling, we did saving your marriage before it starts. So prepare, so we'd kind of planned that for the first 2 years we wouldn't have children. So we'll wait for 2 years. So it would just be us. So we can travel, we can just get to know each other.
That made so much sense.
And so on, yeah. And so we did that. And so then when during that period, we had date night every week. So when we were dating into marriage, date night every week. So every Thursday, I think it was, we would do something. That was date night. So that meant that ministry couldn't be on that day. It was a day that we didn't have regular services or anything like that. So it was clear. So that was the issue. Now, when we had Daniel, obviously sleep routine, kind of thing, just date night went out the window as well. And even me going back to work was a challenge because, if you're going to work, you're coming home, cooking or whatever. And I used to have the house fellowship as well. It's just something needs to give, I guess. And so you have to look at your responsibilities and determine, okay, in this season of my life, what do I need to drop or change to be able to get by? So I was still an usher when we got married. And then I stopped when I went on maternity leave and I didn't kind of come back. And I was a house fellowship leader as well. And I stopped when I went on maternity leave as well. And then going back to work, obviously dealing with everything, it's a real challenge. I think, again, having the second child, so when I had Daniel, they say that you should sleep when the baby's sleeping. You can do that, yeah? When I had Bethel, you can't sleep when the baby's sleeping because there's another child.
Yeah.
And Daniel's 4 years older as well. So you've got to, manage him, entertain him or whatever kind of thing. So you haven't got that rest that you have with one child. And like someone said about two, imagine having twins, you've got to manage that all in one, So it is a real challenge. And even even with lockdown as well, everyone's around, kind of thing. So even date night, how do you do date night, kind of thing. So you have to be kind of, innovative and think outside of the box, or even just how do you spend time together, it can be challenging trying to ensure that you're investing in your relationship whilst life is going on.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question? I have a very important question. And it's this thing about boundaries. Let me tell you why. Because I remember, you know, you and Pastor Banks were mentioned in my house a good number of times. Almost like, yeah, Pastor Banks is diligent with his date night. Boundaries. Pastor Banks goes to bed at a particular time. And he has ministry, business, he's married, he has children. What is the discipline? So if you can both talk to just, in terms of boundaries in the context of as a couple, basically saying ministry or not, we have to prioritize us. And then boundaries in terms of each other, where Fumi is like, I'm sure she banks, as in just like, this is my boundary. So just talk to boundaries a little bit, how you actually manage them.
Okay. Funnily, right? I think you see, in our home, right? I think Fumi does more ministry than I do. Now, I think I think she does more ministry than I do. I mean, she might not agree, but I think she does more ministry than I do. Anyway, so for me, anyway, I mean, if you try to reach me at a certain time, you're not going to get me. Even if and the truth is, even if the phone is there next to me and I've not slept or whatever, there's a cutoff time. So I have a bound, like you said, I've got a boundary around things like that, and so someone will say, but you saw my call coming through. Yeah, but I'm busy. I'm busy thinking. I'm busy, I'm busy just being by myself. I'm busy.
You're liberating people by yourself. You're liberating people.
Yeah. So
by the way, the next time you report to Pastor Banks, the next time he calls you and it's your own boundary, you're busy thinking.
It's all right. You see, the thing is, I would hardly, I mean, generally anyway, I would hardly call people beyond a certain time because I think my own boundaries is lower than most. Well, I mean, most people are way awake and doing other things beyond my own sort of boundary lines anyway. Yeah. People should have a problem if I'm calling them when my day starts in the morning. That is the real problem, because my own night finishes earlier than most people does, but my morning starts a whole lot earlier than most other people morning starts. You get, so in terms of, I think now at the moment as a family, we actually I think as a couple we struggle a bit with those time together and stuff like that, but I'm finding ways to sort of put that back in, because yesterday morning, for example, now actually when we woke up, I said to her, let's just take a walk, right? And I don't know whether she thought that was just an exercise. Let's just walk. So we walked quite a distance. She probably thought it was an exercise. But for me, really, I felt like in a week, I had not really connected with my wife. You get, so it was a prayer walk, but what we spoke about coming back was more than we've actually spoken about in the entire week. Would you agree?
Yeah.
So it's finding a way to sort of do life as you're getting about other things, because it's been half time, the kids are around the house, she's working, I'm doing my own runs and stuff like that. But I think one has to be intentional about the things that are most important, the kids, for me, God first, always, was the family, my wife, then the kids, and then every other thing, on top of that. So I've always been, in terms of, even now talking about boundaries, let me even expand it even beyond just my disciplines. So even when we're dating, I mean, those boundaries have to be set, for example, talking about kissing and stuff like that, those are also boundaries, and the truth is, one of the reasons why I think now that, I mean, my wife trusts me is that those boundaries that we set during dating, I didn't encroach on those boundaries at all. I stayed very well within my boundaries that we agreed. So so it makes my life very predictable. I mean, there are no surprises. So that's the way it's worked out for me personally. Do you want to say?
I think the boundaries one is challenging because so I work like 9 to 5, for example. Yeah. So if I need to do, and like with my role in church, I need to call people, connect with people, whatever. So I only have like the evenings. Yeah. And then so I have to put the kids, maybe I'm cooking or put the kids to sleep or whatever. So it's balancing when I can do my calls, besides ministry calls, personal calls, you know, family and so on. And then either spending time. So during the week, we don't really chill together, but like Sunday evenings would usually be the day that we watch something. But with regards to boundaries, so he's more, I don't know, rigid. You know, like so we were saying about
structured is a better word.
Or discipline. So let's use discipline. He's more disciplined in his in most of his boundaries, I think, in the sense that, you know, like you said about someone calling, and so I might look at the name and think, oh, this person, you know, so I might pick it up, or you know, like if I see the call, I can't just let it ring. Do you know what I mean? If I don't see it, that's another thing. But if I see it, I can't do that kind of thing. So so he's more rigid in the sense that, and I've learned a lot from him with regards to planning your time so that other people don't plan it for you, you know, kind of thing. So and being what's the word? Being intentional with your time. So for example, some of my calls, I might do them on my way home from work. Yeah. So it means that I've got that time. I'm just traveling home or whatever. I can use it for that purpose. Then I don't need to call them a bit later. And it also means that I can finish the call at a reasonable time once I get home, you know. So so I've kind of learnt doing life together in that instance.
Well, can I say something about that? You know, one of the things, and I think we've had this conversation before, whilst it makes sense to make those calls on the journey, and that's what I do. In fact, that's one of the reasons why we actually got a different car. Because when we have the smaller car alone, when I'm on the phone in that car, it's almost like I'm in a wind tunnel. You know, you're hearing the sound is really loud. But of course, the other car, you know, apart from the fact that it's nice. But the point that I want to make about those calls on the road is that once I get to the door, if I won't finish my call, I wait in the car. That call has to finish before I come into the house. You get, and the reason is because if I come into the house and the first set of people that I see are my kids or my wife, I generally don't like to be on the phone whilst, you know, I want to be able to get their attention or get my attention. So I like to try and finish the call, or I say to the person, I'm going to call you back, kind of thing, you know. But I don't know that for me actually still, you know, the call carries on. Maybe this is exciting. The call just carries on, and at times that gets me really, you know. So that's still some work in progress right there. Yeah.
Me? Okay, so what's my next? My next question is, both of you actually make marriage look like marriage is beautiful. I think it was Pastor Banks that said it at the beginning. But both of you make marriage look very easy. And it's amazing. No, it's true. Like we've said it a number of times. Make marriage look very, very easy. And marriage is very beautiful. But we know that marriage is not without its challenges. So I wanted to ask you, what is the most difficult challenge that you've had to go through, and how did you navigate your way through it?
Right. Yeah, I'll let Fumi answer first. But I want to just say something here. You know, I think someone mentioned earlier on that I'm dropping lyrics. But the truth of the matter is that I think that if I married somebody else, my life would have been totally different. You know, I think that the reason why it seems like it works well for us, and it actually does work well, you know, it does work really well, you know, and I think it's because of Fumi rather than me, because me, those that know me well, I can fight with myself, you know, you know, I mean, it's having that partner who,
He's very merciful.
yeah, and you know, and just so she's actually the main reason why it works well, you know. So yeah, so now, but I want her to then answer the question. Then I would say something.
Okay, greatest challenge.
Mhm.
Greatest challenge. What would you say?
Okay, well, for me, I think the truth is, and this is the truth, we actually don't have the kind of issues. We've never gone to bed without talking. We've never, Fumi generally never shouts. I mean, our voice cannot is calibrated. It can't go beyond a certain pitch.
You need to teach me.
Yeah.
I don't know that Daniel would say that though.
Pastor Banks, but I think not just me and Bona. Just say a prayer. Not just me and Bona. Many people on this call need prayer.
Yeah. So I think she has a personality that is very, very, that makes it easy, very easy to navigate life together. But so the challenge, the biggest challenge that I think we've had, well, I think I wouldn't even call it a challenge like that. It's something that, okay. So when our son was born, we had some health care. There was some challenge around that time that it was a very, very challenging season for us, you know. And for me, actually, it was even in that moment that was even further clarified to me that this is the right person. Because you see, when you go through life challenges, the person that you're in that challenge with, the person that you are in the trench with, matters a great deal, you know. So for me, going through that health challenge, health scare at the time with her, oh my God, I would rather be doing this with her than anybody else. You know, it was a whole lot easier to navigate those challenges. So that is what I would say was the biggest challenge that we've really had. I don't know whether.
No, I think that's it. I think for me, because I don't tend to take things to, I don't know, deep. I don't take things to heart too much, kind of thing. So even though it might be a challenge, I just keep on moving, you know, kind of thing. So I don't necessarily dwell on it, and you know, just think, okay, well, trust God, or keep on going, or you know, what do we need to do the next thing, you know. So that's why I think for me, I find it difficult to say what challenge, you know, the challenges essentially.
Yeah, maybe tomorrow actually, and this is I'm actually plugging the session tomorrow again. I'm going to share one of the challenges that I had as a business. That again, for me, it was more like, Lord, I thank you that I married the right person. You know, that such a challenge that could have broken the marriage altogether. You know, but we won't count it as a challenge because of the makeup and the way that our lives have been, because we managed to navigate it. You know, yeah. I think I'm sorry to disappoint the viewers. Maybe they're expecting some serious fire challenge, but that's the reality of our lives, you know.
That's amazing. And then maybe spoke for me. So are there some tips that you can share for people like us? Right?
Yeah.
So is it a part of? I know it's part of your personality. It's also how you grew up. Why don't you shout?
No, I don't know it. I don't know that Daniel would say the same thing, you know.
But in addition to that, there's also the element of when you say you don't go to bed without not talking, right? So are there habits as a couple that you've agreed that, hey, you know, even if we're upset with each other, these are some things that we're not going to, we're going to ensure we practice. So I think it's linked to Bona's question.
I don't know if we've actually shared kind of, I think, so because, you know, we're under Pastor Shola and Pastor Bimbo's ministry, you know, and regardless of the topic of the sermon, yeah, somehow some kind of marriage or personal habit, self-control will come in there. So I think it's recognizing that individually we're accountable to God, you know. You know, I might be eating something and I know it's the last thing and I'm thinking, really, I should share, you know. You know, but no one's watching, but I know God is watching, you know, kind of thing. So I think it's having an awareness that God is watching us, you know, and we're accountable to God for what we're doing. With regards to us, so for me, I can't not talk to my husband. It just seems, you know, counterintuitive, you know, kind of thing. This is the person that, you know, we're building our lives together. So we're going to get through this. It's just a matter of, you know, time or whatever kind of thing. So, so for me, it's just that, you know, that. And I think also so I don't necessarily speak a lot kind of thing. So, but he kind of will speak his mind or will speak what he's saying. And for me, because I can just brush things aside quite easily, I can just move on to the next thing kind of thing. Whereas he may be the one that would have to draw it out. I think quite a lot early on in our marriage, he would draw out, okay, what's this? How are you feeling about this? Or I think we used to grade our marriage as well. So he'd be like 100%. I'm like 40. And he's like, how? You know. So I think it's having the time to speak about the relationship and what's going on and what's not working well, or maybe how we can improve things or what we can do differently. I think that helps.
Yeah, I mean, I would add two things to that. So before we got married, I told Funmi then that, look, there are three people that I can't remember the third person. Is it four?
No, you're looking.
But there are three people that you can talk to if at all you're trying so hard and you can't get across to me. So at the time I said Pastor Shola, then my sister, I can't remember the third person I mentioned anyway. And for me, that was because I needed for her to see that I'm accountable, you know, to authorities. There are people that would tell me even now, actually, I think maybe the third person was my dad at the time. But anyway, that even now, 10 or 12 years into marriage, I would say, Bank, sit down there, that I will just say, I will sit. Okay, so because I understand that power has to be controlled, has to be bound by certain limitations. Otherwise, you know, we are all infinitely powerful people. You have to find a way to control and manage those powers that we have. You know, so that's one. But thank God she never had to speak to any of them in these many years. You know, then secondly, you know, when we spoke about how I got to know, the other thing that is important is that when God spoke to me, there was only one lesson, only one instruction that God gave me about marriage. And I'm, you know, every day I strive to live by that. And that is the principle of always putting my wife first, right? So if I'm thinking about, because my default self without God, my default self is selfish, very selfish. You know, so God told me clearly, and I know that to be true, that, and he said to me, look, if you can put this woman first, right, your life will be fine. So every step of the way, so even when I'm upset, when I'm, you know, whatever, or when I'm thinking of buying stuff, and I mean, in this house, she would attest to the fact that even though I have shopping allowance, I don't even know that I rarely touch it, you know, not because, I mean, she ends up buying most of the things that I wear and things like that. So that's the kind of person that I have. I try as much as possible to work on putting my family first, because I know that if I resort to my default self, it would be about me, you know. And so the more over the years that I've managed to, anytime I'm able to align myself with what God said to me, it turns out to be a best decision actually for the marriage. You know, so I think that's paid dividend over the years.
No, it makes a lot of sense, and I think that that statement you just made, when you said it, I said, "Oh, cliche." Very people to note. But I in this whole issue, I mean, whilst it's for any marriage, including yours, it needs to be navigated carefully. And it's this thing of money and in-laws. I was trying to think of topics that cause problems, right? And I think of three things: primarily money, in-laws, and there was a third one: money, in-laws, sex. Thank you. Money, in-laws, and sex. So in that order, how do how do you maximize? How do you maximize, those areas to ensure that they navigate it effectively and it doesn't break up the marriage? Because for most times I see that those are the key issues.
Yeah. Okay. So my in-laws, they are, again, I mean, I'm not sure whether my life would apply to a lot of people's reality, but my in-laws are like my family. I mean, they are, from day one, my father-in-law took me in as his firstborn. Even though the first question he asked for me at the time before we got married was that, does he have papers? You
gotta ask these questions.
Thank God that I have my papers. So but beyond that, I mean, it's just been, I mean, they don't interfere, and at the time, actually, when I think very early on, when they would make comments and say something like, oh, they were telling you something in confidence, but then she'll make it clear that, look, anything you tell me, you just know that I will tell my husband. So very early on, we defined those boundaries, and look, if you tell me, I will tell my husband.
But speaking on in-laws, kind of thing, also recognizing the difference in the cultural differences. So I grew up here, yeah. So my parents, like, I don't kneel down to my parents. We hug or whatever, kind of thing. And my dad cooked. So my parents are not necessarily what I would say traditional Africans, in some aspects, should I say. Whereas his dad, traditional Nigerian kind of thing. So I recognized that I needed to adapt in the way I interact with his dad. I can't interact with his dad in the same way that I interact with my dad, and recognizing that I need to do that. And I think for him also, I don't know if he's had to catch a lie, say, okay, don't worry, please, she was born in the UK, please, just allow her. Yeah. I don't know whether he had to do that.
Because, to be honest, your parents did a fantastic job in raising you. So those never came up actually at all. So in terms of in-laws, we again managed to navigate that. My sister and they're very probably, when they're planning events like this, you think they are sisters, so we have that going, I'm conscious of time. So in terms of money, one of the things that again definitely sealed the decision for me is the fact that very early on I established that I could trust her with money, right? So because I knew that I will make a lot of it, so I need somebody that will be able to manage it.
That's right. That's right.
So the thing is, from early on, right? Because I do more macro. I think big time. I think long term, big. The kind of thing. But then the day to day, she's actually way better than me, in managing. The different accounts. So at home, I defer to her on the day to day running of the home kind of thing. She goes in and out of my account, out of the accounts. And we've never. I don't think we've ever actually had any argument about money, because we established very early on that your money is our money, my money is our money. And it's always worked for us in that way.
But we also at the beginning of the year agree certain things, that how we're going to spend our money, should we say, or what the plans are for the year or whatever. So so there's a limit to how much we can individually spend, should I say?
Yeah. And it's also because we as individuals, we are not that, I don't shop. I actually don't. I really don't. So it's only the heavy items like, okay, I want to get a car,
Heavy items.
Heavy items, like that one, like an elephant, when you give it like the boom, one big one, So, but day to day, none of that at all, so that kind of takes care of that. I think we have 2 minutes to go. So
I have a 30-second question for both of you. You probably remember, I don't know if you remember this from the same day. You don't have to answer if you don't want to know. Passion, intimacy, commitment. Are you both willing to answer for both yourselves or each other?
Passion, intimacy,
and commitment.
Okay. So what's the question?
Like scoring it on a grade of 1 to 10.
Okay. Passion, intimacy, and commitment. Commitment for me will be 1.
What do you mean 1?
No. As in top. Passion or intimacy would be next.
Passion.
Would you say that though?
I would say yes.
Yeah. So for that, yeah.
We gotta work on passion.
Yeah. No, I agree. We're working on that. Yeah. My brother just joined though. Papi Goose. Yeah. Right. Anyway, so we have a minute. Anyone want to ask a quick question? Right. No other question. I think we're more or less
we're done.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us today. And thank you, Pastor Uche and Pastor Vona. Thank you very much for questioning us, for putting us in the hot seat. We appreciate you guys.
Yeah. Thank you.
So amazing.
All right.
Loved it.
All right, dude.
Take
care. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Share 2 minutes ago.